Terminus walls. That's going to be my wallpaper.
Welcome everyone to Voice of Terminus Show 36. Joined today by Kodiak. Say hello, Kodiak.
Good afternoon.
Say hello, Lex.
What's up, people?
Dal is not going to be able to join us today. He unfortunately has to work because of the major hurricane that was hitting the East Coast. He's had to go in and help out there. So he won't be joining us today. We hope that he'll be able to join us next week and everything settles down. It was one of a hell of a storm. Saw some of the video footage on that, so he won't be with us today. So you're going to be stuck with us three. Today's topic is evolution. Everything related to that. We're going to talk about character evolution, guild evolution, pet evolution, city evolution, and shard, or for those that don't or can't relate with that word, server evolution. So what the general idea for today's topic, theory of crafting, is basically how we can possibly make all of these 5 topics become something more unique, more immersive. That your guild will actually evolve over time. Your pets that you have will evolve over time. The cities that we live and thrive in, that they actually change over time. Your character as well. When you basically start off, how that will change, how you can see a change happen to that character, and how servers can have different events unlocked, different outcomes. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we'll kick it off with character evolution. And to give you guys a basic introduction, is character evolution nothing but rags and maybe a few copper coins to your name? You become a legend that is known throughout Terminus. So Kodiak came up with this idea to talk about evolution, and we'll let Kodiak actually go and start it off.
Well, my thing is that this is why I'm against the armor looking like you buying the slots and making your armor look well. I want a character to start out in rags. I got my loincloth and my club, and from there on I progress, I gain armor, then it becomes better, so that like level 20 armor doesn't look as cool as level 30 and 40 and 50 armor. So you could be like, that guy is awesome, right? Because he's got the coolest looking armor. That he's like a level, max level character. That's what I'm talking about like with the evolution and the progression of how your character should look and feel.
Okay, Lex, anything to add?
I'm on the same island here because one of the biggest appeals to EverQuest and Ultima Online for me was that you basically started out wearing a burlap sack with a wooden sword, getting beat up by kicking snakes, to being a super badass who could take down giants. So it's all in the journey. If you start off feeling like a nobody, it's okay. People are usually worried about that in the development side because it's like, oh, they're going to feel unimportant, they're going to leave. No. As long as we feel like we're having a journey and we are getting stronger, it's like, yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, it's definitely something interesting and worth looking at. There's other games out there that actually make your characters age over time, the older you get. We kind of talked about this multiple times on our shows. Another idea of how to have your character evolve is actually you start out as a youngling, a bit younger. You're a young man, woman, and as you gain your levels, you basically kind of become a little older, a little more rusty and rugged looking, that you've seen battle and stuff like that. From a developing side, how is stuff like this easy to program? Is it possible, Lex?
What was the name of that? I always think a chicken chaser. But you age. You started out as a little boy, and you'd age, and then you'd have scars depending on battles. The heck was the name of that game?
Fable?
There have been a few...
Fable, yeah, Fable.
Yeah. There have been a few MMOs that have tried it. The problem is that they've never fully gone all the way. It's not really that hard. It's just a matter of texturing, really. And maybe some color palette swaps. Because it's just appearance. It doesn't actually affect your character.
Mm-hmm.
So The problem is, you know, you need to be able to say, yes, you can do this if you want. If you're an RPer, great. You can age. But as much as I love the immersion of that, look at me. My skin is flawless. I don't want my character to age. Come on. That's just me. So if they give me an option, yes or no, then it's like, okay, fine, I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. But it is actually surprisingly less difficult than you would think to actually implement.
Okay.
And actually, that's one of that other game or whatever. That's actually a turnoff to me that your character only lives for 10 months and it ages and then it dies. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to spend all that time on a character and then have it die, you know, and will my stuff to a new one. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But
in some cases, like I can't remember the name of the game. It was some old, actually Java-based MMO. They did aging, but it was time-based. So if you were offline, your character was still aging, which I know why they did it. They did it to try to make people play as much as they could. But that made you sit there and go, you know, oh God, my character could probably like die of old age before I get home from my vacation. Oh God, you know, and that was the wrong implementation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it by level. You could even just have an override slider saying like it goes up over time, but you could just reset it back to whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the age or the, you know, getting wrinkly or whatever. I just feel that the armor and when you look at somebody, right, and you look at their gear and, you know, what they have on and everything like that, you should be like, okay, that guy is a noob, or, you know, he's a low character, right, because he's got rags on. And then you're like in his 20s, he's starting to, you know, acquire some plate gear, some better looking gear, and then by the time you get your epic gear and everything, you're going to be like, oh my God, that guy's a god, you know. And that's what we're talking about as far as, you know, if you're going to be leveling up your skills and, you know, your armor and the way your posture, all that stuff should affect, you know, how you are in game.
Yeah, it gives you basically, you know, recognition throughout the whole entire game.
Oh yeah, and posture is one thing that a lot of games don't do for character evolution, which is actually a very great idea. It could just be a subtle difference between standing, you know, like this and then standing like this. You know, you're just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Something. What does chat think about character evolution? Would you like to see some of what we talked about? Do you think it's something worth pursuing, something worth talking about, or are you fine with how it is? Any other thoughts, guys, while we wait for chat to respond? Any other ideas? What could also help your character evolve?
I think in just a general sense, if you make it something that's optional, you're actually going to appeal to a lot more people. Simply because you've got the extra immersion for the role players. For the people who are absolutely vain like me, you can turn it off. But it's all about the options. They don't have to go crazy in depth on a system like that. Just give us the option if we like it or not.
I think
and that way it doesn't feel like it's forced on us.
Yeah, I mean, it should be optional for sure. And I think, you know, this is something that, you know, would relate more towards the RPers. People that like to role play. This is definitely something that might interest them. Having your character actually be visual on the way you're playing it, and so.
I wonder if there was a visual way to turn off the skins, right? So like basically, if you wanted to have that in the game, to where you could use skins, but have the option to turn it off, so you would actually see people for how they were, not how the glamour crap looks.
It would be smarter, honestly, to do that as a client-side option, simply because of such a wide amount of variance between machines. They've stated before that they're going to try and make this available to a very wide audience in terms of hardware. So, say you could get this thing to run on a dual core with 2 gigs of RAM. Okay, for those of you who are not computer people, that's very little. If you do turn on this aging stuff, it's going to suck more memory because you have to have extra textures and all this other stuff in memory. So if I wanted myself to age and I wanted other people to age, I could just be like, yes, I want to do this. Let myself age. 2 options, done.
Yeah, Sintro says, basically character evolution is really important. As a young character, it's important to see an evolved character as a motivator. I've created so many alts just because I've seen some high-level character adorned in epic gear and thought to myself, wow, I want to be like that one day too. Yeah, exactly. So you go around, you view people, you see their class and all, because you might think, I'm never going to play this class, but then you see some guy, you inspect him, you look at him and everything, and you think, wow, this actually looks pretty cool. And I want to be like that.
You see a warrior in full plate armor that's really, really aesthetically pleasing. It's got the little scratches and dents, and he just looks mean and nasty. You see him walk by, you're like, I'm sorry, I'm going to roll a warrior. I'll be right back.
Yeah, right. I mean,
well, talking about your dents and scratches, there's a lot of people out there that would like to see their armor, shiny and pristine. How hard would it be to actually add the option to have it look pristine or look damaged, as an example?
It's the same thing with the aging. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of additional textures.
Yeah, it was funny because you go back to the way it looked. Because I remember a vivid whatever. I was in EQ and I was running around POK and I saw the Beast Lord's name was Xantos and he had his claws, the glowing epic claws, and I was like, I'm making a Beast Lord right now. Because of those Wolverine claws,
Yeah. So let's go move over to the guild portion of evolution. So please leave your thoughts and comments, guys. Tweet us if you your ideas on character evolution. Let us know what you think. If you're interested in posting something in the forums, go ahead and do that. So guild evolution. Basically, what we think about with guild evolution is once a guild camp on the outskirts of town, flourishing now within the city as a grand guild hall. So kind of ways to basically see your guild visually establish itself over time, through its accomplishments, etc., through its guild size and whatnot. So what's your thoughts on this, guys? Guild evolution.
See, I came up with this one too because I think that when you're a ragtag bunch of people and you guys are starting to meet each other and whatever, right? You might have like a little tent or a hut outside in the forest somewhere, and then as you start earning prestige or gaining faction with a particular city, I just don't want to see like, oh, I'm the richest on the server, I can buy the best guild hall off the bat. You know what I mean? Like you have to start somewhere and work your way to that grand, whether it's contributing to that city somehow. I know we're going to get to cities in a minute, but to earn the right to have a guild hall,
Right.
It gives you something to do as a collective as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. See, I never liked EverQuest 2s where you had to level it up and stuff. That just seemed it felt like a grind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around the bush. It felt like a freaking grind, and it honestly was. I'm more of the school of thought that if your guild accomplishes certain deeds, then they've earned the right to get a plot of land.
Yeah.
If they go further and do another extraordinary deed, then maybe the king or the governor or whatever it is sees it fit to give them a larger plot of land, which would open up the ability to build larger things. But it's just like a character. I want to look at it and admire the work.
Yeah.
If you could see a cooking fire with some tents, it's a guild meeting place, right? You're like, okay, yeah, these guys just started. Cool. Makes sense. And then you go a couple miles down the road and you see this gigantic keep that's got like archers patrolling the walls and it's got murder holes and gates and drawbridge, and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, basically.
Because you can tell people put a lot of time into it, that's the thing.
I mean, you can relate this to, let's say, for instance, now, for that city, basically, you do the main storyline of quests or whatever, or you have to go through so many dungeons to unlock, a certain achievement for that guild and stuff like that, or you have to go and kill a certain raid monster, and then you can unlock something that relates to the guild. Stuff like that would make sense rather than going out grinding and collecting items that you can go and bring to a merchant to sell to get status points, stuff like that.
I mean, the whole purpose... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I could definitely see something in that direction where you know, like you have 10 members in your guild, it unlocks something. You have 15 members in your guild, it unlocks something. You know, as you grow, you get rewarded that way rather than going out and having to grind, because there's enough grinding as it is. You know,
right. And there should be multiple
crafting.
ways.
Yeah, there should be multiple ways to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, you've got raiders, you've got groupers, you've got crafters, you know, there's whatever, you know, even just harvesters. Try to include everybody.
Well, that's the whole point of being in the guild, is to do community events, right? So by, like, you know, coming every Tuesday, we're going to go out and harvest everybody together, right? You could take a couple hours out of your time to go help your guild mates and establish your foothold in the world, you know, as a guild.
I know I just said that I'm against the leveling, but just as an example, you could say you have to gather a certain amount of guild points, okay? And I know this is just like a leveling system. I understand this. I'm being contradictory here, but this is just an example. You could do something where every group member in your party, beyond yourself, earns like 1 point a kill. And with raiding, you know, that would equal a lot more people. If you're crafting, you could turn in lumber, you could turn in ore for a point or 2 or 5 or whatever they decide. You know, if you're a crafter, then you can turn in items for large amounts of points, whatever. They're just, if it doesn't feel like a grind, like I'm doing the same thing over and over, which meaning I can group, I can raid, I can craft, or I can just run around and gather because no one's online, and I can still contribute, that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I would rather earn those amenities versus buy them. That's basically what it comes down to, right? I want to, like, as a group, as a collective, me and my guildmates, we go out and we earn the ability to put crafting tables in our guild hall, right? We don't just go to the local store and buy crafting tables. Boop, I'm rich, here we go. I want to earn it.
Yeah, you basically go out and gather materials, for instance, or, you know, you contribute towards a guild by putting half your materials into the guild, into a guild bank or whatever, and after you've reached such an amount, you can unlock that, or you can then go and build these tables and have them in your guild. I mean, the good thing about doing it this way is no matter who's in your guild doing what, they're all going to automatically contribute to unlocking some certain feature at any point in time, because everybody's going to be able to, you know, do their thing with their groups, do questing, do crafting, do whatnot, and still contribute to the guild without this having to go and, you know, hey guys, on Sunday we want to get together at this time and go and do that, but I can't be bothered, or, you know, I'm not going to be there and it falls apart, you can't do it, so you've got to postpone it again. Everybody has the chance to contribute without any regard to having certain times or setting certain goals. So it's a good way of getting everybody to help out on a passive note. So definitely a cool thing. What do you guys think in chat about guild evolution? Do you think it's a good thing? Would you like to see something like this, or do you think it's something that should be left alone? I know guild leveling's definitely not everybody's thing. I didn't like it myself. It did become a terrible grind, especially.
Well, it'd be good. It would be good to be able to personalize your guild hall, because you could have, you know, like, hey, we're a raiding guild, right? So you want to show that persona that you're a raiding guild, or I'm a crafting guild, and you want to have, you know, quilts and, you know, and stuff like that, like, shown off in front of your guild, like, so that we know by the visual of what type of guild that is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a raider, maybe you can mount the heads of the raid bosses on the wall.
Yeah, they did that in EverQuest 2, basically. You could, that came in fairly late, where when you accomplished a raid, it would drop basically the head of that monster, or that raid boss, a trophy, and you could put those into your guild hall and stuff like that. That was definitely something cool to have. The only problem was, basically, it became a sell-off later. You know, guilds would or raid forces would run through them. They got their heads already, because it was basically a no trade item. You can only have one in your guild hall. So they would go and ask other guilds, smaller guilds that never raid or anything, if they want these trophies as well. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool to do, but don't make it too easy, though. Definitely not.
And like one of the only the other problems I had with Guild Wars 2 was it seems like when you got your guild leveled up, they gave you way too much convenience, like way too much, like planes of power, teleporting everywhere kind of stuff, and it was just it ruined the game for me.
I would say once they added porting and merchant, basically you take yourself out of the population because you're always just porting back to your guild hall, selling your stuff, porting back out to, you know, whatever the zone is. So there's no like interaction with the cities.
Right. I could see having like an extended, like, or a free bank or something, you know, that's shared amongst everyone in the guild. Obviously, just the regular guild banking system.
Yeah.
Don't know why I made that complicated. I mean, I could see some buffs, but all I would say to VR is please make them like virtual, like pretty much trivial, or make them just fun buffs where it's like, oh, I can click this buff off of this raid mob's trophy head and now I glow. You know, maybe I'm a light source now.
How can it be balanced? You know, for guilds out there that don't want to really put that much of an investment in. Because that's what it comes down to. In most games out there, when your guild gets higher, you level it up and everything. You can unlock certain abilities and certain features that others don't have. How can you make this
rather than having actual guild halls? Why doesn't a guild basically like adopt a city and contribute towards a city and help that city grow with, you know, reinforcing the walls and whatever, and then the city gets to fly their banner, you know, like they're protected by X Guild, you know, or something like that.
There's something similar to what they did in Terra. In the major cities, you would have the banners of the guilds in that city, basically, and just outside you would have the major guild halls. So it's kind of similar to that's like actually another way of doing
but they wouldn't. But they wouldn't actually give them a guild hall where people could go and hide. They're still out in the open and they're in that city.
No, what I'm saying. What I'm saying is basically, you know, it's definitely been done, so it's something they could pursue. They would just have to leave out the guild hall part. I could see something like that. Also, kind of.
So as that guild that established that city or whatever, so as they unlock additional merchants and crafting of tables and, you know, whatever, it just becomes part of that city that everybody gets to use.
Yeah.
You know.
That's kind of also a cool way of approaching it, looking at it, instead of, you know, viewing guilds as a single collective. You view them as a general collective that can help contribute to that city they choose to be where, you know, where their guild is formed or whatever. And also,
if there's 1,000 guilds, we're going to have a purge. One day a year, just PvP.
Well, regardless of what they do, what really needs to happen is your guild hall, because they've expressed that they really do want to do guild halls non-instanced, which is fantastic. There has to be a valid reason for us to put this time and effort into it. I don't know what they would do, but there needs to be something that's not going to do fast travel or way too much convenience. If it's going to be some kind of buff or something, it's got to be balanced. It can't be this crazy, oh, your guild's level 3, everyone gets a 20% experience boost. You know, woo! Now it's like you have to join a guild or you might as well not even play.
Yeah.
Well, you can make the sponsoring of a town optional too. You don't have to do it.
Right.
You know.
And on the flip side, there has to be a cost involved with the maintenance to maintain your guild hall. They could do it through money. They could do it through materials. They could do it through just having to do stuff in the world. But there has to be a cost to keep it.
Well,
because too many games have like really old player housing that just sits there that use a plot of land, and now you can't use it because they never log in.
Yeah.
Well, I like the whole fact if they're talking about with the outpost, being able to uproot your outpost, move it somewhere else to a higher zone, put it back down, and so on and so forth. But I think that the like what Yarnell was saying earlier, as you gain prestige in that new zone with whatever the faction is or whatever, maybe the mayor of that city gives you a larger plot each time that your prestige gets higher, and you can build a larger outpost. You know.
I mean, Striga's said as well, basically, tie items to upkeep instead of cash. Make for item sync and both adventurers and crafters can donate to. Also, you know, because that's what it all comes down to, basically. There's people that, you know, just join guilds and you know, they're a bit more quieter. They don't have that much time and everything, and you know, they don't want to spend the time having to go and do guild events, you know, on their time, that very little time that they have. So give them the option to contribute no matter what is definitely something that would, I think, suit everybody. I think everybody would be happy with that if they can contribute on a passive note regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally would love to go and visit guild halls. I used to do that all the time in EverQuest 2. I used to go and visit guild hall for guild hall, see how they designed it, because we had, you know, building options and stuff like that. We could, you know, we came up with crazy items, like, you know, we out of a fish tank we built like a mirror and stuff like that, and it was definitely interesting to see what the people, you know, did with their guild halls and how they laid them out and what they unlocked and everything. It was definitely cool to see, and I'm for both ideas, you know, having guild halls or actually just being a guild that can then have the option to contribute to a city and help that city thrive. I'm for both options, regardless.
Yeah, you can have multi-guilds contribute. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to have multiple banners on their walls if all the guilds are contributing to these little cities or outposts, you know. And like I said, the ones that don't want to help the cities, they just have little outposts out in the forest, and that's where you guys meet up, or in the tavern. You don't even have to have an outpost, you know. It doesn't really matter. Just meet at a raid thing, you know. Who cares? But give it options.
Yep.
You know, people that want to contribute to the evolution of a city, let them do it. You know.
Yep.
It would also be very nice if a guild hall gave you guild quests. Like, let's see if I can find it in chat here. Someone just said it. Catharsis, where like you could trigger a quest where goblins raid your guild hall. You know, and you have to fend it off. But as long as the rewards justify the effort.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be rewards that benefit you, though, in a way that you know, becomes negative to others. It should be rewards that, yes, they do reward you, but it's nothing really, you know, it's nothing that's going to basically give you a better advantage towards others. You know, fun rewards, stuff like that, or basically you can unlock certain abilities for, instead of, like, let's say for instance now you can contribute resources to the guild to unlock, you know, crafting tables. If you go and have this fight with the goblins and everything, you fight them off, you get rewarded by saying, instead of having to gather 100 resources, now you only need 90. Stuff like that isn't too rewarding and threatening towards others, that benefit the guild and just the guild only, and give you a major advantage. It shouldn't be something that gives you an advantage. It should be something to do on downtime, to have fun. It should be something to do rather than going on raids, doing the normal stuff. It should be entertaining stuff that will give you something to do. While
I just thought of something when they were talking about the weather, right? So let's say a storm, as you know, everything, you know, we're talking about weather the other day too, right? So a storm comes through and the tavern gets his roof taken off, right? We would then have to go and gather stuff to help the city repair those roofs. Like, there could be dynamic events that are going on constantly based on the environment.
Yeah, definitely. That could also be something, instead of, you know, having stuff like, you can have orcs attack, or you could have, like, you know,
and if nobody repairs that city, guess what? That tavern doesn't exist, because those shopkeepers and stuff moved out because they have no roof. There's nothing to protect them.
Cool.
I would really like to see weather affect cities.
Yeah.
And then we as players have to put forth some form of effort to help rebuild it.
Well, we're going to get to that anyway when we reach
shard
thing. So let's go and let's go and have a look, see if there's anything interesting in chat, guys. Did you see anything? Any responses?
I've been pulling whatever I see.
Awesome. So we'll move on to Maybe this is what Dark Souls says. Maybe have a list of items needed per week. Example, depending on the size of the building, they need X stone blocks, X beams of wood, X reams of cloth, along with a tax. Have a donate to guild window at the banker, or even a banker at the guild hall. Yeah, definitely cool idea, Dark Soul. So let's go and move over to the pet portion, and. So kick this off, basically, pet evolution. A shaman's companion wants a wolf pup, now fully grown into a dire wolf kind of idea. So, Kodiak, start it off.
So once again, I was thinking like, wolf pup into a dire wolf, or if you take a mage, let's say you start off with a little blue flame, and then, every 10 levels, you get a new spell or a new pet ability. Now that flame turns into a bigger flame, and then whatever. And then, it just ends up being the evolution of your pet. So, you can look at that pet and say, oh, that's a high-level pet, or that's a mid-level pet, or that's a beginner pet,
Yeah. I'm trying to answer chat, so...
Yeah. One of the last classes I played in EverQuest before I finally retired was a Beast Lord. I also played a Necromancer. I can tell you for a fact that nothing made me happier than when my pet changed. With the Necros, when he went from a skeleton to the little Wraith Reaper thing. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Awesome. And I didn't care that he was still terrible. It was just like, look how awesome he is. And it doesn't have to be anything big. With my Beast Lord, my pet just got bigger. It made me feel like he was growing with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not just the size. I want the look. I want, like you start with a pup, then it got bigger, then it got, a little bigger, and now it has a mane, or you know what I mean? Like it's getting, evolution of the pet itself.
Technically that could be done. They could do that based on the level of the pet, for instance. If you go in level.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It'd be easy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's obviously yes. They would have to go and design the individual, skins for the pets and everything, and maybe do it every 10 levels or whatever. So once you've reached max level, it becomes then a full dire wolf, whatever kind of thing. And then, in the mid-30s, it's now a grown dire wolf. But then at level 50, it's a dire wolf of whatever awesomeness, as we use the term so often here. So yeah, definitely something interesting. Can it be done to all pets though?
Yeah.
Well, I think any pet class, it's different if you're like an enchanter or a druid that's charming. A pet out in the world, or an animal, or an item, or a human, or whatever. Well,
and see, you can even do this.
Totally different.
Yeah, you can even do it with vanity pets. Like, all you really got to do is scale them a little bit, just enough to be noticeable, or maybe change the color a little bit, and you feel like it's a whole new pet. It's changing with
you. You can even keep the pet the same size, but give it armor.
Yeah.
Just like how you would increase an armor. Basically, that wolf would then have a little face mask thing or whatever. Yeah. Then it has arm guards and the face mask. Now it's got a full thing that goes all the way down its back. It's like there's other ways to do it.
They kind of did that with the Channeler in EverQuest 2. Your Channeler, you could basically swap out its individual limbs, like the legs, the arms, the head, the chest, and everything. You could change it out and make it look, it would start off looking like something really cute, and you're not going to do anything to me. But then you could change it up over time. You would get really awesome looking breasts and arms, with claws and stuff like that, to make it look really mean. So it's definitely easy to do, to add the possibility of adding armor or visualization to the
your hawk
pet.
gets like claws on its talons.
Yeah. And just to say, like with Hawks, he says he doesn't like the mini vanity pets because that just screams wow, and I agree. But I also feel that they should be passive pets, not vanity pets. They do something. They could be a buff. It could be anything. It could just be an aura or something. I hate it when they add stuff that is absolutely useless.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. That's the raider in me saying, "Why the hell is this here?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with Pokemon pet battles. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
If it ever gets that point, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, definitely not.
I mean, when you think about being a pet class, how your pet is your world because you are a pet class. You know, yeah, mages and EverQuest and conjurers and necromancers, all of them, they can still cast spells and they're pretty formidable by themselves, but they are known as a pet class.
The other thing is so let's say you did have a pet class, so like a beast sword or a shaman or whatever, and you had a wolf, right? Wouldn't your food consumption would go up? Your drink consumption would go up, right? Now, on a mage, on the other hand, because they're summoned, it would be a little different. But you have to. I mean, let me think about that for a second.
Well, I mean, I would like pets to consume their own form of food because it only makes sense. Now, the thing is, don't make this crazy to where they eat like an insane amount of money. Where when I take my food and my pet's food, it costs me 40 silver a day when I play.
They actually,
but if you're not a pet class, you're spending less.
They actually did something like that in Terra Rising. You could get it was more or less, you know, a fluff pet. It would automatically gather the items on the floor, but you would have to feed it, and it would basically gradually over time it would lose its energy to gather the items. So you would have to go and buy food for this pet and then feed it. And you know, so it definitely can be done. You can add food that you would have to feed your animal every now and then to regain its full strength or whatever. So I don't see why not.
Yeah,
thing is, mobs could drop pet food.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I mean, a dire wolf can eat meat.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
You know,
but the thing is, you have to make it so that it doesn't interfere very much with your gameplay. Because say I'm a cook, I need that meat. Yeah. But I'm a pet class, so now he's eating my crafting materials. So if he's eating like a piece of meat every 15 minutes, I'm gonna be furious. I'm gonna throw my monitor across the room. I'm gonna be so mad.
You have to go.
But if it's something like a piece every 2 hours,
you have to craft poison meat and then go here. You need to buy this awesome piece of meat for me for your pet. It's got special abilities.
Puts the pet to sleep.
Yeah.
But as a pet class. Nothing is more infuriating than a static pet.
Yeah.
Static meaning he just doesn't change.
Well, that's the other thing. So it's like, I think, that's why I didn't like the beast swords in EQ1, right? Like, if you were a barbarian, you had a wolf. Always had a wolf. You couldn't change it, Like, give people options,
Yeah. Options are the spice of life. Just don't give us too many. You got to find a nice balance.
Well, it should fit towards...
If you get to choose your pet... Go ahead.
It should fit towards, either the class or the race, technically, and be within the compounds of the law. What pets they would usually have, like ogres. I could see ogres definitely using, wolves or bears and stuff like that. It makes sense that they would have the power to actually, if they get out of hand, punch them on the nose, and they do, that they abide by the ogre's rule. And there's other characters like a halfling. I can't see a halfling, going, hey, Mr.
Butterfly,
Mr. Big Brown Bear.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they do have to make sense, but let's just say, for instance, complete and utter speculation warning. Say I'm a ranger. Ranger is a pet class. Say when I start, I get to choose my first pet. It's not my last pet, but it's my first pet. Kind of like how Guild Wars 2 does it. When I say give us options, but not too many options, give us like 3 or 4 options. That's it. When you start your character, that's it. Just pretty simple.
Okay.
And then as you evolve, you can change if you want or keep with the one you like.
Yep.
And what about stabling your pets and having multiple pets so you can have options too?
As long as it's not a summoning class, like the summoner, doesn't make sense to stable them because you just pull them out of thin air. You pull them out of their elemental plane of existence. So with them, it doesn't make sense.
Well, as I said, it doesn't make sense with food or anything with them too, because
but that's
basically whatever spell you learn, that's what you're summoning.
Yeah. And that could be the benefit of being the summoner. You can summon your pets from anywhere. Whereas a ranger, whatever pet you leave town with, you're stuck with. Or maybe the shaman, you go to your stable and you get your bear. Well, you're not, unless you find another stable, you're not going to find a new pet in the middle of Black Dagger Keep.
Yeah.
So you're just going to have to deal with them if it's the right choice or not.
Exactly. That's how I would kind of see it. Give certain classes the option to stable pets. That makes sense. Like a shaman, you would be able to control multiple pets, like a wolf or a bear, or whatever. Whereas a ranger, I could only see that be like with maybe an eagle or hawk or
well, I would say
limit
it to animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, limit it to animals. You can only pet animals.
Right. So before we move on to the city portion, we're going to do our disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that we, the voice of Terminus, just like everybody else out there, we're fans of the game. So here to help support Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. What we do here every Thursday is we theorycraft on ideas to maybe help VR
get the ball rolling,
get the ball rolling, and think of things that they might not have seen. Everybody that participates in chat, your opinions, we try and push them through as well, so that they do get heard. The more people that participate and help throw around ideas and talk about what we theorycraft on our show, the better. VR do tend to watch our shows every now and then. You'll have maybe a dev pop into the chat as well. So the reason for doing this is to help support them guys, and we're doing it for you guys as well, to help pass the time while we wait on Pantheon. So that's the disclaimer. We are not related to VR. We do not get paid by them to do the shows. So we're just like you, showing the love to them and just trying to help the community as well pass the time. So let's go and move over now to City, unless you got any last thoughts on the pet.
I'm good. I'd just be reiterating what I've already said.
Okay. So I'm going to say, look, so with the pet class, you could have a food crafting place for your pet. Also a possibility.
A unique crafting for those with animal pets.
That could be something like, an additional trade. That if you're
Frog said something about rare skins, but that made me think of, let's say you had armor slots for your pets, right? So in level 10 you'd have one, maybe a head armor set. In level 20 you have head and shoulders. Then in level 30 you'd have head, shoulders, and paws, or something. So you'd be able to visually change the outlook. You just, that pet has 3 armors on. Okay, I know he's a level 30 pet. Something like that.
So I know it. To a lot of people, that seems like an awful lot of I have to worry about his gear and my gear. And what if I have multiple? That's a lot of sets of gear to worry about. And I understand that, but I still think if you keep the slots low, like you could just say a body slot armors, paws, back, chest, whatever. But as long as you keep it small. And
but if you're a pet class, that is part of your class is to get armor for your pet. You're gonna equip him. You're gonna equip him to prepare him for the climate also. You're gonna put warm, heat resistant stuff when you're gonna go in the desert. You're gonna put, ice resistance when you guys go fight in the cold weather.
So there's a few ideas that popped up, so we're still going to be talking about the pet by the looks of it. Coach says, what if summoned pets could evolve the longer they lived, so it was beneficial to keep them alive instead of them being disposable? Fox also added, would be nice to have your pet as it grows, to have a visible inventory to see what they have equipped, plus give them a food and drink slot. Makes sense. And then Ferrell says, I like the creature handler class in Star Wars Galaxies. They went out in the wilds, got baby creatures and made pets out of them. That could eventually grow up to be mounts or other things. Ferrell, we kind of talked about that on, I think, one of our crafting shows, about having a trade where you would actually go and be able to tame animals and turn them into mounts. You might want to go and revisit that one.
Yeah, it's called something equestrian or something, when you're training
animal husbandry.
Or whatever. Yeah. I can't remember what we called it, but yeah.
So what about the idea from Coach with summoned pets evolving, and the longer they live, it would be beneficial to keep them alive instead of disposing of them?
That's cool. I mean, as long as you could, of course you're gonna be able to zone with them, because if you have to buff them up or whatever, and run across 7 zones to get to where you're going, then yeah, I don't see why. If you put a timer.
What about the idea of an inventory? Obviously, if you're going to put equipment on there, you're going to need an inventory. But I like the idea of actually having a food and drink slot, kind of. But,
I mean, basically in your character window or whatever, if you had a pet tab, and just how like you have armor, it has armor, it has a food and water, slot. I mean, I could totally see that.
Another idea I just thought about as well. What about having certain pets be able to maybe interact with the weather? So like a wolf could tell that it's going to become colder, or a bear or whatever.
That could, maybe if you linked it with the perception system, like you notice that your pet's colder or something, I don't know. But I can't really see a lot of places for them to actually interact that would be meaningful.
Well, the only thing I could think of, it would be like, but we talked about like with their armor, right? So if it's raining, it's going to slow you're going to slow your pet because you're soggy, you're taking on weight for, because of the rain. Or if there's lightning, maybe they're more afraid because it scares them, or if it's hot outside, if you're in a desert area, they're consuming tons and tons of water. So there are things that the environment can do to impact your pet, for sure.
Because we do know that birds can actually tell when there's actually something wild is going to happen, or they move to the south when it gets colder and stuff like that. So they do have a connection to weather, the same as bears and other animals. They do have a certain effect on the weather. So it's something that makes a pet class not more special, but it gives them a bit more of a value to themselves as well.
Yeah, see, that's a good idea. So like if it starts raining and you have a fire pet out, guess what? You can't you won't be able to use a fire pet in the rain. Just put it out. Or even a frost.
There's even like very, very minor interactions that could be done with that, where when the rain is coming down, you get random hisses from when the rain hits them. It's just small things in MMOs go a very long way. So if I'm standing next to my fire elemental and it starts raining and I start hearing I'm like, he's burning the drops of water. Nice. I'd sit there and watch the smoke beat off him and stuff. We're like, yes.
It's like being a vampire, putting your hand in the sun rays.
Well, Nexus says, if my pet can get scared, then I need to be able to train it or summon a new one so it's not scared. I won't have that. I can't see why you couldn't be able to train your pet. I mean, you do train your animals in general. They have to learn. First they have to be tamed. Then they have to learn obedience, etc. And then you can train them to actually, fear off, fight off fear, or not be scared, or be alarmed. I mean, they could have basic traits like the NPCs, different behaviors. You could add behaviors to
disposition.
I mean, what about if your pet has skills, just like how we have skills with evocation, divination, whatever, right? So they have. So the more like I said, the longevity of that pet, the longer you play with that pet, that they have their own skill set that they evolve also.
Because this is all stuff that gives you something to do in downtime as well. Rather than just running around in a circle, chatting in chat and everything, you can then go and train your pets while nobody else is on, or you can't be bothered to go and do some dungeon runs and stuff like that. It gives you stuff to do, and I mean, think about dispositions, for instance. Now you have your shaman wolf, and you've given it the disposition to be an alarmist. It would then basically, it would warn you, or maybe it would warn us by howling off earlier that there's NPCs or mobs around us than the normal wolf would do.
Maybe it can detect stealth mobs.
Oh, it can detect stealth mobs, exactly, stuff like that. So depending on what kind of disposition you try and train for this animal, it would have a different outcome.
Oh yeah, that would put some major difficulty, like she said. If you have to keep it alive and it dies, guess what? You got to start all over. That would suck.
I think that might be a little much unless they level really fast.
Yeah,
that might be a bit much for me. Because it'd be like, stupid pet died again. I'm done.
Well, it's just that's what we do here. We throw out wild ideas and see what we can come up with. So let's go in. I think we'll move on now to the city portion. And let me bring it up. So, city evolution. Once a primitive town, now thriving with intellect, wisdom and power. Stone walls secure from the dangers beyond those walls. So basically what that means is, as we talked about earlier on, guilds, players contributing to their city with materials and everything. So let's say, for instance, now let's go and picture Thronefast in its basic form. Instead of having made, some massive stone walls around it, it would have wooden barricades around it. But we go and contribute stone to them, to the masons, or crafters, for instance, that can work the stone, transform these into massive, huge blocks, and then you can switch out those wooden walls for stone walls, for instance, stuff like that. Help the city evolve. Or you upgrade the city. Now it has, the tavern now is bigger. It has 2 floors instead of just 1. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that like cities, in like non turmoil zones, right, that are kind of calm or whatever, would be good for like crafting guilds to adopt those cities, because then they could progress them. But let's say in a higher level zone, where there's a bunch of turmoil going on and battles and everything, then I would say those are the raiding guilds would want to take over those cities to help protect them. Yep.
I mean, tax definitely plays a role as well, Foxel. Tax should definitely play a role, and there should be taxes. We talked about that on our economy show as well, about
better buildings, better sewers.
Yep. So basically, there's lots of ways you could upgrade your city. You could even have events or quests given to you that would make you have to go out and help repair the southern wall or the western wall, or the church tower is starting to crumble, the roof needs to be fixed and stuff like that. So there's plenty of things that they could do to help us evolve. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Age of Empires, where you started off in the antique time, and then you went through the different times, and you evolved your whole city or your whole race and everything within that. So I think it's kind of cool to see stuff like that. But I would like to see, if we do that kind of stuff, scaffolding.
Well,
to some bits and pieces where that event is actually going.
Is actually performing tasks.
Performing tasks. Make the city.
You're just there to
alive.
Supplement the work.
Yep.
Yeah, and based on where the city is located, that city, if it's by the ocean or whatever, it's gonna, have like sand and wind and, destruction to that city. If it's in a rainy area, like or tornadoes or lightning or, there's gonna be stuff that's happening to that city. That's why I think that we have to get, as a community, get involved and help that city thrive.
It's like it's like the screenshot. You brought up with the city being on the docks and everything. You can see the docks on the background we have. It's all wooden. You could have those changed out into stone. Something like that to help to evolve the docks and everything, to overcome climate, weather effects and stuff like that. Because if it starts flooding or massive thunderstorms hit or ice and everything, the wood's obviously going to get marsh over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Now, moment of silence for EverQuest Next, as I mentioned something. That's enough.
Yeah, that's enough silence. Keep talking.
The one thing that I got really excited about that game was the fact that there were quests. At least they were saying quests to help you build the city from nothing. Mm-hmm. So the Keynos that we know and love from EverQuest 1 and 2, it's not there. It's just a bunch of tents, bunch of just, immigrants and refugees. And then eventually you have to build it up. You have to do quests. You have to do, and there's everything from pushing monsters back to help craft the walls to go get lumber for the homes. Mm. There was something for everybody to do, and eventually build it up to a great city.
Crazy idea. Crazy time, guys. So this is just something that's come into my head. Yeah, you might try and bash me for it, but obviously outside the cities there's going to be small towns and everything, or smaller villages and everything. What about city evolution being that they can actually overtake it? It's part of that city.
Replace the capital of the region?
No. Basically, it becomes a part of that. It actually becomes a part. It has a fencing. It's now defended by that city. Mm. You can see the small villages and everything, like that screenshot they just released today. That village is it's a few wooden huts and everything, but now it's got like a defensive wooden wall around it. because the city's evolved and now become its protector. It's actually now been able to go and adventure out that far. They've fought off all the dangers that are between that area, between the main city and that village.
And their outer wall has expanded,
and
to
it has
include
kind of
that
expanded, included
that town.
So it's protected. Crazy idea, definitely, but food for thought.
That'd be an awful lot of work, but I think that is work that would definitely pay off in the long run.
So any further thoughts, guys? City Evolution, while I go and look through chat and see what everybody else has said.
No, I mean, like I said, not just City Evolution. I just want them to be like
Make
living,
the world change.
breathing things, right? So each city is different based on their climate, based on the people that live there, whether it's a poor city, is it a rich city, is it a, because if it's a poor city, it's a slum, it's going to look like crap. There's going to be garbage, you know what I mean? If it's a rich city and, I don't know.
Right, so there's a few ideas. Before we carry on with your thought, Lex, let me bring in some ideas from their chat. So Salem Diaz says, whole city burns down because a horse knocked over a lantern in the stables. Definitely something that, an event could be done. It starts burning.
That could be a random event.
Could be a random event. But Necros says, maybe I'm a pessimist, but what if a city is under attack and literally no players are in it? Well,
first off,
go on then.
First off, as a developer, a good developer would do, if there's no players in the area, you just ignore the events. You don't do it. Someone has to be there before an event's triggered. That's just called good programming.
Well, they could have it damaged though as well.
You could.
Yeah,
you could just have it so that the NPCs are all inside, but the goblins are running the streets.
Yep. You could have stuff like that happen. The outer walls are broken down, so now we've got to go and repair it. You come back to Thronefast, the walls are broken. There's a big massive gap in there now. Thronefast is kind of in the open. Tough luck. Nobody was there to protect it. The guards couldn't fight off the attackers, and now we've got to go and repair. I mean, these are all dynamic events that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, for those that are familiar with Trion's Rift, it's kind of like the Rift invasions where the NPCs patrol the map, or the enemies patrol the map. They'll take over a little outpost, and you just have to take it back. I mean, it could just be as simple as that, really. It's just a matter of mixing it up so it's not the same thing over and over, which is where Rift got it wrong. It's just the same crap.
It's what you already mentioned the EverQuest Next. It's what EverQuest Next want to do with story bricks. You would basically choose to either fend off the goblins that are attacking, the city that's trying to be built, or you would help the, goblins, and depending on how many people are actually helping or defending, the outcome would be either the city gets built and they fend it off, or the goblins are taking over the city now and they're trying to build up, from the ruins that are left over. So there's definitely ways to do it. In today's day and age, the technology is definitely there to have dynamic events happen, regardless of you being online or being in that zone. It would still happen. So it's definitely something that could be done.
Yep.
The reason
and
that
hardware has also evolved to the point where you can do 100 times what the servers could do for EverQuest 2. There's so much processing power now that there really is very few limitations.
Here we go. Somebody had to bring it up. The rat quests. So Pharrell says, have a quest for the newbies to clear out all the rats in preparation to build up the town to the next level. And then Salem...
50,000 is a little...
Yeah, Salem adds to that 50,000 rat quests for newbies. Oh, God, no. I hated the rat quests.
I mean, but so this is the prime example of the next segment, which is having the servers being different, right? The shards.
Can I just quickly add? Oxylin has a kind of a point. When if a city burns down and no one is there, does it make a sound? It could basically, they do have these warning bells. Basically, the church could start hammering its bell and everything, and you could have a notice go up in the region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a huge perception. You hear a loud-ass explosion, right? Yeah. Oh, everybody!
You hear war drums in the distance.
Yeah.
Coming from the southeast.
Because something's about to happen to the main city in this zone.
Because this is all stuff that anybody can contribute to, and it's always going to give you something to do. You're not going to be bored, either doing the crafting or, trying to level up your AAs or whatever. You can do all kinds of things. You're always going to be, there's always going to be possibilities for you to do. So this game will, because when people talk about end game, as far as I see it, I'm playing an MMO. There should be no end game.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Everything should come full circle.
If you have dynamic events going on in every zone, it won't matter what level you are. You'll always have stuff to do. If you've got dynamic events going in the newbie zone and going in the mid-level zones, the end game zone, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to matter.
Right.
It's not a rush to get to max level. You know what I'm saying? It's because there's plenty of stuff to do at level 20. There's plenty of stuff to do.
Another idea, you know, but we'll get, you know, these ideas, guys, are brilliant what you're bringing in. But we're going to kind of get to that when we get to the shard part. But I'm going to go quickly bring it up from Salem again. What if a whole town gets wiped out off the map and is gone for good? Also a possibility. These are the dynamic events we're talking about when we get to the shard part. So,
well, that's why I think it. That's why if that town was sponsored by a guild or or multiple guilds, whatever, then they would be on them to supply the resources to help that city or town rebuild. Now, if nobody wants to help that town rebuild, then guess what? They don't have any merchants to go to. They don't have any vendors to sell. They don't have, a stable to put their horses, stuff like that.
And plus, with all these ideas, character evolution, guild, pet, city, doesn't matter where you go, this can all be also tied to the perception system as well. And this kind of helps VR with their troubles of thinking about how can we get high-level players to still go and revisit the lower tier areas by doing, by adding evolution. You're always going to have to go back to the city or go back to a lower zone and do something to evolve your character, your guild, your pet, whatever. So this also is another way of helping them out, figure out how they can have the game be important regardless if you're level 50 and you're in a level 1 zone, a level 10 zone, a level 20 zone. There should always be something for you to do. So this is another way of helping these guys out with evolution, adding the perception system to evolution, adding weather affects certain parts of evolution.
The climate could play a huge role in the cities, whether, like you said, destruction, rebuild. If it's if you're not having to rebuild a city, you're contributing to grow that city.
Imagine having an earthquake happen, right? A rift happens and basically Throne Fast is split in two. Now you have to gather all the mages, as many mages as you can that would basically try and pull the, with their magic, they would try and pull the earth back together to make this, close this rift that's happened. Stuff, these are certain events that you could attract certain classes to. So you could do class-specific events as well. Have with the climax system. So a massive rift has happened in the city. Thronefast has a massive hole, and it's basically you need all the mages and summoners around you to go and gather as much power to form their.
Well, I think that you're talking. I think that minor little things, weather, lightning, fires, whatever. Those are one thing. When you're talking about a cataclysmic event, then yeah, that's going to be like a major change to the zones, to the world, to the and then yeah, everybody's going to have to come together to help.
But those are also ideas for the shard area. So I think we can actually move on to that because we're kind of overlapping and we can actually combine city and shard together. So I'll go and bring up the shard evolution, basically meaning server evolution. For those that don't know, I didn't know until today, until Kodiak and Alexa explained this term to me. So, server evolution. Different content unlocked or different events vary from server to server, i.e. the Red Dragon has been awoken on server A, but on server B, for instance, they have to deal with major climate change. So these are, different events or different evolve stages, depending on how the players in the game have unlocked the content. Or achieve certain goals. So every server would be different, basically, is what we're kind of getting at.
Yep. See, even touching on dynamic events, because I call these dynamic world events. I know Guild Wars 2 does something similar, but here's the problem. They do it in a very poor fashion. You basically have overall 4 stages. Start, win, lose, and then you've got the final stage if you win. Because if you fail, you just start back at the beginning. It's boring. The same event happens every 30 minutes. That's not what we want in Pantheon. We want server changing, oh my god moments, but that they're different. So say, like they're saying in chat, Throne Fast is already damaged by war. So what if the ogres see that weakness and they attack, and we, the players, don't fend them off? Well, now Throne Fast is owned by the ogres. The humans are now refugees. But on another server, they fought back and pushed the ogres back. So that could start a whole different storyline. It's honestly, in terms of development, not that hard to do. It's just trying to fill in the gaps between basically stages of the story. And that just takes creativity.
Well, like I said, if, let's say, they relaunch the game, and here's the core game, and they've got 5 paths. They've got, like the Red Dragon. They've got a climate thing with some crazy wizard that wants to control the weather. They've got another one, some troll that lives under thing. And so based on what those server does, one server may unlock the troll. One server may piss off the crazy wizard. One server may open the tomb of the Red Dragon. So that every server is different. And and over time, eventually they could all unlock all of them. But if I'm playing on server A, the whole world is going to be different than the people that are playing on server 2. And the reason, because the people are different, right? So why should everything be the same? If I play and affect this server, then my server should be different than the other people's.
There are valid points though in chat, and I'm kind of I am definitely on the fence with this as well. It's definitely a cool idea. But it would have to be, for me personally, it would have to be events that any server can unlock all these events and have all these outcomes happen to them. Valid points would be, would this lead to server hopping, causing dead servers and overpack servers? Definitely something that could happen. Could this lead to people, hopping from server A to server B and end up staying there, and then the guilds start falling apart? There's so many things that could happen that affect your server, your guild, the socialization. There's so many things that could happen to this. The general idea is awesome, definitely cool to have. I would like to kind of see. There has to be a kind of way to balance it out, so that that this doesn't become a problem. It should be something where you can unlock all events where they go for for a period of time. Let's say, for instance, now let's go and pick up the idea, the Red Dragon. All servers now get the Red Dragon. Okay, there's now this quest where you have to go and defeat the Red Dragon. This event lasts for 3 months. Okay, as an example, and let's say they put a number of kills to this dragon for it to be fended off. So let's say you have to have 10, it has to be raided 10 times, it has to be successfully raided, killed 10 times, or it will basically end up burning down a region or whatever. So it's basically a time-locked or a timed event that all servers get, but then the different outcome would be, one server might make that, the other server might not. But then it could happen again. So the server that hasn't been able to defeat him, obviously there's going to be turmoil, the land's going to be burnt, this and that, the dragon's now going to be flying over and attacking people, this, that and the other. But the other ones have fought it off. But this event can be then triggered again later period of time, and this time we decide not to defeat this dragon because we want to know what the story outcome's going to be like, what's going to happen next. So it gives us options. So we can then all collaborate and say, right, this time we're not going to go and defeat him. As a whole community, let's go and see what happens this time. That's what I would kind of like to see, rather than have different events happen, because then you will have people that will jump from server to server, and it could happen that they get stuck or they like the new outcome. So there's definitely things that could happen that would be more negative towards the server they were originally playing on. It could be harmful to us all.
Well, that just comes down to how well do they do it. I mean, like a Red Dragon, you can consider that a side story where it doesn't have to interact with the main story arc, so it can happen whenever. It could happen a week from release, it could happen 4 months from release on another server, it doesn't matter. But like an overarching story would be one that you can't really fail. It's just once you finally accomplish it, it progresses.
Yeah.
It's the side stories that would make a lot of little changes. And I'm not talking like, oh, look, Throne Fast is gone on this server. Well, what the hell? You know? It's, well, Throne Fast, the eastern quarter is now cinders. And people are working to rebuild it because the Red Dragon went crazy. And we didn't stop them.
Yeah.
On another server, they did stop them. And it uncovered some ruins. The key to the design of these side stories is that don't make one outcome obviously better than the other. Even though you failed, make the next step still valid, still interesting, still impactful.
Yeah, so so instead of
might run into problems because because the minute they start cutting corners, it's going to turn to crap.
Yeah, so the Red Dragon is now it's released. You didn't defeat it. Now the Orange Dragon is there, so you've got 2 to fend off. Add twists and plots to it.
They can introduce, like I said, they can introduce all 5 problems to every shard, but just depending on what the people on that server decide to do, maybe they're human heavy, and so they're gonna do the Red Dragon against Throne Fast, but maybe they're halfling heavy or elf heavy, so they're going against the crazy wizard in the tower.
Definitely,
so
definitely cool idea.
And you can do these events 2 ways. You could do it as a GM event, because that's great. I love GM events. That tells me that the people that are running the game care, because they're doing this with the community.
Yep.
That's what GM events mean to me. Yeah, you can do a lot of timed ones that are just randomized or like happens every day at noon, but eventually, say it's on a random interval or just a steady interval, sorry. That's boring. That's why I stopped playing Guild Wars 2, because I was bored of the same event happening every time of the day. Random, you do add a little bit of difference, because I go over to this server where some friends are because we didn't really talk at release, and then I got a character on this server. I'll sit there, the game is feeling fresh on each character because the story is just a little different. The world is just slightly different. It's not really affecting my overall gameplay, but I'm like, wait a minute. That city has no walls. What's going on here?
I mean, the greatest thing about this idea as well is the stories that you with your friends live through. Stories to tell. You have so we've been playing this game now for 3 years, Lex, and we've had loads of events. We've done stuff, and then Kodiak comes into the game, brand new, decides to join our guild, and he's in TeamSpeak with us or in guild chat or whatever, and we're talking about these events. He's like, wow, when did this happen? He's gonna be like, wow, that is cool. I want to go and I want to hopefully live through something like this as well. It's stories and memories that you create and can talk about and tell people about. A few months ago this and that happened. You went away at the wrong time, dude.
Yep.
You missed out on an amazing event.
One of the funniest stories I have with a buddy of mine from way back in my EQ days is we're talking about this GM event that happened, and his brother was also playing. He's sitting there going, guys, I am so envious, because we sit around with a beer in our hand going, do you remember when this happened? We didn't know what was going on. Our big ogre raid tank went running in and just instantly died because no one followed. And, just a big long story. And my buddy's little brother is sitting there going, oh my God, that sounds like it was epic. It was 30 minutes of us dying a lot, to be honest, but we still sit there and go, that was the best time ever.
I mean, the best thing about this idea is, this actually impacts expansions as well. It gives them time to actually work on really good expansions and work on content that is going to be valuable to us and everything. So they could have events pop up for 3 years, and then they release an expansion. We're not going to be bothered because there's been no expansion coming for 3 years, because we're always going to have something to do. And they kind of did something similar, Lex, what you were talking about just now. In EverQuest 2, they had these events at the beginning of I think the first 3 or 4 expansions of EverQuest 2. They would have events where you would have to build the druid wings or build, the wizard spires. But it was a timed event. So you went and bought the expansion. You pre-ordered the expansion, and you could then, take part in this event. and you would get, you know, a appearance item or stuff like that, or a title that would make you recognizable to others because you actually participated in that event. It's something to talk about, you know. I missed out on it because I didn't get the expansion when it came out. So, you know, it's something I missed out. I envy that person.
Well, see, that's why if you had like we were talking about, like if you had the red dragon, you had the troll in the mountain, you have the crazy wizard. Just by participating in those 5 different dynamic events throughout your server, you earn a title or you earn something that shows that, hey, I participated in this thing, right? And then when some other new, you know, expansion, some cataclysmic thing happens to the world, a new race gets, you know, dumped on us or whatever, right? Those things are still there. You can still go do them, but there's also now new things to go and do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of spacing out special happenings in the form of events, GM events, dynamic events, whatever. If you space them out, you could literally go several years, like 2 or 3, without an expansion because we're sitting there going, so Kodiak and I were running around this crazy tundra in Pantheon, and then all of a sudden, 50 polar bears came out of the mountains. We just turned around and ran. Now we're going to get our guild together to go take it on to see what's going on, because we don't know what's happening. You know, it's like
I'm not talking
you
about,
walk into a zone and go, what the heck is going to happen to us today?
And I'm not talking about having like the red dragon be like just a raid mod. I'm talking about having a story. You have to go find the lore to see why it's here, what pissed it off, who let it out, how do we trap it, how do we get it put back, you know, where it is. You know what I mean? Like a whole long story-driven event, not just oh, there's a red dragon, let's go get 50 people. And kill
they could even add like I mean the you know, the server having different events also. I mean, there's ways to stop people from going over and saying, well, I want to go into that server now. I mean, character transfers could cost money, technically. So there's many ways. Well, another idea is basically getting onto that. So let's say, for instance, now server A has overcome this dragon, but server B hasn't, and now it's been like 3 months after that event. We still haven't managed to defeat that damn dragon. Now a GM could be so kind and reveal little tidbits from server A through perception on how to defeat him.
Hey, did you know that if you go over to this town and talk to this guy, they'll set you on a little quest and give you guys a catapult that will really help on that dragon?
Exactly. So stuff like that could be added. You know, this server A's, you know, they're glorified. You know, we defeated him, and server B's like, God damn it, what are we doing wrong, guys? And then the GM comes along with a little tidbit event saying, hey, you know, there's this guy in such a town that might be able to help you out.
Yep.
Go find him.
Yeah. And one thing I'd really like to see with expansions, now I'll go back to my WoW days, so no one sits there and goes, oh God, he's talking about EverQuest again. Those that remember, I think it was 8Q, there was a big server-wide event where you had to gather a bunch of stuff to open the doors. I loved that. I had so much freaking fun. And that was a very boring event, to be honest. But I had a lot of fun, because the minute those doors opened, thousands of people died.
Coach has a fantastic idea for expansions as well. What about I don't know if you guys talked about it because I was kind of sidetracked. But what about an expansion boss? Your server has to defeat this Uber boss to actually unlock the next expansion.
That's what I was trying to say. Is that like, hey guys, new expansion's out, go find it. Yep. Like, don't, you know, now we got to go find little clues and, you know, and everything like that. I think that's a way better way to introduce an expansion than, hey, here, pay $50, download this content, have fun.
Yep. I mean, it's like we were talking about, I think it was when we were talking about the lore keeping, I think it was, when we did the lore keeper, we talked about, you know, expansions, having puzzles in the game to unlock expansions, have certain events happen that would unlock an expansion, etc. And, you know, there's just so many ways to help VR with these kind of ideas, to take their time on it. Because, like we were talking about, we don't want an expansion to always be, here's 5 more levels or 10 more levels, or here's a new city, or here's a new complete massive zone area to go and wander off about. You know, they could tie expansions to certain events, to to the lore keep, and they could add further lore to unlock, or they could start you off on the quest to learn about a boss monster or a new threat that is coming, so you can prepare yourselves for this new threat, stuff like that. And there's just so many things that they could add to an expansion that still makes it an expansion but doesn't give you those, hey, new gear, new levels, go and have fun. Because rinse and repeat, I'm fed up with it. I am fed up with rinse and repeat. Yeah. You spend months trying to get all your raid gear or whatever, because that's the ultimate gear you want to get, and then you find out after you finally got the last person in your raid geared up and everything, you find out in 2 weeks' time an expansion's coming out, and what you've done is kind of like been for the cat.
Right.
You got to go and do it again.
I have a simple formula for determining if I'm going to get bored of a game very quickly. I take the first 4 quests that I do. I categorize them by what type they are. The FedEx ones, the Kill X, et cetera, et cetera. If I get to my 4th one and there's a repeat in that list of the type I've already done, I'm going to get bored. The same thing goes with expansions. If it's just, what was the last expansion? Another 5 levels, a new zone. I'm going to get bored of this thing.
I liked the way Terra kind of introduced their quests. They had the story-driven quests, the red quests basically. Yes, they did have, exclamation marks and this, that and the other. Regardless of that, they had story-driven quests that were very long, very hard to accomplish. You had to go into dungeons, you had to beat, the boss monsters, etc. You would get, you would have events where you get promoted in that city for achieving that, and it was story-driven. It would always carry on, with a main story to help you understand the lore of that game, what's going on, why these events are happening. And that's kind of what I would like to see is, a main, kind of like a main line to go down. You could have different, they had multiple storylines going for each region, etc. So there was plenty of storylines to go down. So stuff like that, I would love to see that as well. Have a story-driven kind of quest line to go down as well, because I love questing, to be honest. I love doing quests regardless of the quest. If it's a FedEx quest, a go gather this and everything, I tend to do as many quests, or if not all the quests in every zone. I love doing that. It's stuff that I love doing, and it's that's why I'm playing the game, to have fun.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's just, I don't know, I have what I call gamer ADD, meaning I get tired of the same old BS very quickly, because I've seen it all. I've been gaming for over 20 years. I've seen most of it. Please, someone, God, do something different!
Yeah, but just to clarify in chat, I'm not saying that I want to see exclamation marks, definitely not.
No.
I was just referencing that in Terra, they did have that, but they had story-driven quests, and but I don't want exclamation marks in this game either. Definitely not. I don't want to see that guy's got a quest for me, that guy's got a quest for me. What I want to see is,
I could see walking by them going, "Hey, come here."
Yep, exactly.
That's. I mean, they've already said that they don't want to do that either. They want you to actually go and walk up to that NPC and hail it, and it may or may not tell you something.
Yep.
But it's
don't have the world tell me what's out there. Let me interact with the world to find out what's there.
Yep, and let me interact where it makes sense. Not having to go to... I'm sorry for all the EverQuest people, but it makes no sense to go and talk to every NPC to find out if he has a quest. That's not how you run it in real life.
Said, you're walking through the tavern, and somebody's like, "Psst."
Yep, exactly.
Hey, come talk to me.
Events
whatever.
Like we said,
your perception.
Temples, perception, taverns, merchants on the street, a vague figure in a dark corner. That's where it makes sense for an NPC to go, "Hey, psst, come over here," or you to go and talk to him. But talking to every NPC is just, I'm sorry, but it's stupid. It makes no sense to go and talk to every NPC and say, "Hey, you got something for me to do?" It makes no sense. I'm not going to go knock on my neighbour's door and ask them, "Hey, you got something for me to do?" and go to the next neighbour, "Hey, you got something for me to do?" You don't do that. There's certain areas where you go to get your information, and that's how it should be in the game as well. A bit more, with a brain behind it to make sense where to go. Like you start off, you would go to a tavern to get the first information. So you start off in Pantheon, you're in Terminus, you're in phone fast. Where are you going to go? You speak to a guard. He says, "Go to the tavern, dude. See if there's somebody there that might help you out." You go to the tavern. You start hearing people talking.
Now, the important thing with this, and I'm looking at you guys, VR, is I understand small studio, you can't do a lot of voiceovers.
Yeah.
So make the text that's important either stand out or make it short and sweet. If there's more than 4 lines on my screen, I say whatever. And I'm a guy who loves to read. I read every night for about 2 hours. But when I see it in a game, I'm like, oh my god, I don't care. But that's because I've been conditioned by games like World of Failcraft.
They don't make the text exceedingly long. You have to read like 30,000 pages.
Next,
yeah. Yeah, puzzle clicking. Which? How do I respond? Until you find out the right way.
If they make the important information a different color, bold it or something,
yeah,
cool. I will definitely read that. If it starts to be like, hey, wait a minute, this might be a cool story, then I'll go back to the start of it and actually read it. Because the problem is with a lot of these games is that there's very uncreative quest text. It's like, oh, my brother was out looking for his dog, and then goblins got him. Can you please help him? It's like, oh my god, shut up. Tell me what you want me to do.
I mean, it's like running in the forest, right? We're running through the forest, and we see this NPC injured on the ground going, ah. You're going to talk to him. He might have something for you. That makes sense. You know, he's hurt. He's down. You know, he's been damaged. He's been attacked. So you're going to go and talk to him. That's an NPC that makes sense to go and talk to find out if he might need help, assistance. But I'm not going to go and run through the forest and speak to the guy who's chopping down trees. You know, he's chopping down trees for Christ's sake. He's not going to come up to me and go, "Hey."
Yeah, he's a busy man.
He's a busy man, you know. But the guy who's actually in the wood lodge, you know, working the wood, he might go, "Hey, you, come over here. You know, we're missing a few guys. Do you want to help us out, gather some wood?" That makes sense. But not going to speak to the guy who's chopping down trees. As an example, that's what I'm getting at. So
there should be some type of trigger. I would assume there'd be some type of trigger that tells you a perception. They would talk to you. They would, your visual thing. Like you said, you'd see that they're hurt. They would say, "Hey, come here," or something.
They'd run up to you and be like, "Oh my god, help me!"
Yeah. But something
we've said this before. We want better quality quests. We don't want a ton of crappy ones. I would honestly, if they had 4 quests that actually enthralled me to where I read every word and I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the story, everything, I'd be cool with that.
I mean,
but that's an over exaggeration, but you know what I mean.
I mean, they also already talked about how they want to approach quests as well. You've got the perception system as one, then you've got another one that's basically triggered off answers. So depending on what answer you give this guy, he might give you the quest, he might not, because your answer is pompous or not the right answer, period. So he's not going to give you that quest. So that's something that I find intriguing as well. I would like to see that kind of option, or have not instead of hailing the guy who's injured is hailed. I'm not going to hail him. I'm going to say, "Do you need help?" So give me different approaches to talk to an NPC.
Well, I would assume as you walk towards the guy on the ground, he's going to be like crying or something, and you're, and that's going to trigger it.
And the idea what I was getting at with having them have these quests where you have to reply with a certain answer and it would have a certain outcome, that's kind of cool. That helps as well with you going to revisit or going back into the lower levels, because that guy might not give you the quest right now, but because you've progressed and you've become wiser, or you become more respectable, he might talk to you for a second time. But this time, he's not going to lead you on that puny quest that was, level 15. He'll lead you now on a level 35 quest, because you're now level 35. But he's going to talk to you now after 15 levels again and send you off on a quest that is going to reward you. So basically, the NPCs could turn you down the first time, but he'll offer it again and again and set you off on a different quest.
See, that's what I would like to see, because that's going to encourage the higher level people to come back to the older zones and be part of the community.
Exactly. Any further thoughts, guys, for the show, for the what we talked about, character guild, pet city, Chad?
For the shared thing, doing well or poorly in an event could actually unlock different groups of quests from NPCs. You kill the red dragon, so you go talk to the captain of the guard, and he sends you to, I think the dragon came from here. Go check it out.
Yep. Salem's got a good, this is a good example. So, he says, what about the woman running from her drunk husband? They could add multiple outcomes to that. So you could go over there, be Lexa, be the Dire Lord, smack him in the face, knock him out.
Kill them both!
Right? So you've done that. You've knocked him out. Now, she might not offer him a quest now because he's basically gone and hurt her husband. She wanted him, though, rather talk him down, try and bring him to his senses. So now Kodiak comes along and speaks to the guy and talks him down. He then goes and apologizes to his wife. Everything's happy, and then they offer you a quest. Certain things like that have different outcomes depending on what you do. Lex is going to be the bad guy and just he's going to go knock him out because, hey, I'm a Dire Lord.
He's a bully.
Yep. The shaman is wise. He's going to go and use his wisdom on this guy and, try and, set his mind straight. And then
the only thing that I want to add to that is that if they give you an option to share a quest, for the love of God, if you're on the quest, you should be able to share it with me.
It'd be funny if he could punch back and he knocks your ass out.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
Yeah.
Nope.
Basically, let's say basically, right? Kodiak, Lexa punches this guy, and all of a sudden, after 10 seconds or whatever, this guy stands up. Full geared army, starts to, mutate into this really angry dude, and he beats the crap out of Alexa.
Oh my God, it's the Hulk!
I would love to see that. Yeah, the shareable quests. I'm kind of on the same page where you are, Lex, but with the ideas we've thrown around.
If someone has it, you should be able to go, hey, I need to go get this chalice. You want to come along? Sure. Well, here's the quest.
Yeah. They should be able to certain quests, but it should be only certain quests that you can share. Common quests and stuff like that. I can't. If
that always bugged me. That always bugged me because I like to game with my wife as a duo a lot of the time. She's all nice and happy to everybody, and I'm like, burn the house down, eat the children.
Yeah, but if you haven't
all of a sudden, we have to go different directions.
But the thing is, if you say you haven't done the pre-story quests, or you haven't, you talked to that NPC already, but you basically decided to be a pompous Dire Lord, and he turned that quest down. You shouldn't be able to get it. That's how I see. You shouldn't be able to get it.
If it removes them from my world, we'll say, then then I can understand why I wouldn't have it because I don't have anyone to turn it into. But if he's still alive, and he gave Kodiak a quest, he should be like, hey. This drunken idiot said I need to go find his horse because his wife sold it. That's why he tried to beat her. Want to go help me? Sure.
I can see.
So if I help him, I should be able to get a reward from that as well.
I can see your point to some. Don't get me wrong, Lex. I can see exactly your standpoint, but I don't know how to balance it.
Hero quest to me, right? I think if it's a class-specific quest, or when we're talking about like epic gear, or whatever it is. And there's no way you should be able to share those because those quests are for you and you only. There should be
something that will help the people who have helped you, other than just, oh look, I got some trash stuff to sell to a vendor. It's always bugged me how, they're the same level as me. They're working just as hard as I did, but I'm reaping all the rewards. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but
it's called using people.
For me, if I'm being helped, I like to know that these people got a reward too. They got something out of it.
But what about idea? Just sprung out my head. What about if you want to go and share that quest? You have to offer a reward if he doesn't, if he hasn't got it. You reward the person coming and help you out. Give him a few copper coin. Giving him an item.
That would be difficult to do, but I think they could.
It's an option because the way I see it,
or just to give you just a little bit as an assistant or something. You assisted, so here's a couple gold pieces. Because then it's like, hey, look, I actually got something for doing this.
Here's your reward. Oh, and he flings you a copper, silver.
It's always bugged me because, like, my wife is the paladin, the good player. She plays with a conscience, and I'm the guy who's like, they're gonna let me burn the house down, and she looks at me and says, "Don't do it," and I go.
Because in the end, that's socialization.
It is.
You helping me out.
Then she has to go down this quest line, and I had to go this way to pursue my quest line. And then, that's the only way that we stay together, because if I go with her, she's gaining more experience because she gets that extra reward from the quest. But if she goes with me, then all of a sudden I'm ahead.
Yeah, but
it doesn't keep us together.
Well, there's ways of doing that. You basically, you look at your quests, you see where they are. That's how I did it. We planned the quests. We had a look who had what quest, and we went and said, right, we're gonna go do this one. Then we're gonna go and move to that area because that was basically where the next area is. And then we're going to do your quest, and then we're gonna go down here. That's where your quest is. And that's how we kind of achieved it. We helped each other out. So we stuck together and helped each other out. Because like having certain events happen, certain evolutions, perception quests and everything, you can't always get the perception quests. It might be class specific, it might be race specific. So you're not going to get it. So it makes no sense for you to get that quest.
I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what class you are, right? If we're going to go run over this ruin, I think all of us are going to get that same perception, of what to do when we get to that ruin area. Like, that's not going to matter. But once, like I said, you're going to have your own specific quest that only you can do, and you're going to need to recruit friends to help you do that. But in the same token, you're now, unless you're, a dire lord, then you're going to help your friends, complete their quest as well. It's like it's going to be a give and take. That's the whole point of being a part of a community.
Yep, I mean, that's socializing at the end. You help each other out, you plan ahead. I mean, that's what we do when we talk about the boat rides. That's the perfect time to sit down and see, right, who's got what quest in these areas, what do we need to do? You plan ahead. Common quests, I can understand definitely, 100% Lex, common quests should be shareable. But quests where you have to go and choose a certain, you have to trigger a certain response to get that quest. If they kind of do that, if you responded wrongly, then that guy's not going to talk to you regardless. He'll talk to you 10 levels later maybe. There should be some kind of penalty for you being, for you being mean or being too kind or whatever. There's still stuff you could do, because you might, you got to think about one thing as well. Just because you're helping him, you don't have the quest. You might get a perception quest on the way though. Always think about perception.
That's true. I completely forgot about the perception. So yeah.
Perception could always kick in.
I take it back for frogs or beats me.
Yeah, definitely a great discussion so far. Anything else to add? Anything from chat you guys want to add? Sorry we haven't been engaging that much in chat. I'm actually running back to see what you guys have said so far. But please add anything else. Let's have a look what Dark Souls said. There should be sub-levels for some of the quests, like the class or epic ones, monetary or rare crafting resources. Definitely agree with that. Let's have a look. Kiwenzo asks where the F-bomb is our October newsletter. So the October newsletter has been postponed because of some issues I think they might have had, technical issues or something, and it should be coming out in the next couple of days. So we might have it tomorrow, maybe, or later on. I don't know, what time is it now in the Pacific Coast area?
Almost 3 o'clock.
So they have a few hours still to work, so we could get it today. Or we might get it tomorrow, or it could be, unfortunately, till Monday. It's been delayed a bit. So look what else we have. Centro said each quest has a given reward. If the player who has the quest active wants to split up the plat or items from the reward, leave that up to the players to share. Definitely. What I'm saying is, with the idea, Centro, is basically, kind of to help socialize and reward other people because of Alexa's dilemma, is to maybe give you the option to, say, if you help me out, I'll reward you. With this,
split your reward,
split your reward. It's a way to socialize. You scrub my back or scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's how it works in real life.
I ain't getting in the tub with you.
But then people will just disband right before they turn it in, and then you get screwed out of your loot. Yeah. But I mean, then guess what? Then they're going to have a crappy rapport, and people are going to talk on the server. Hopefully, that's why the community matters.
Yeah. I mean, like when I went to get like my epic quest done, I always, before I did my last turn, I did a split usually of like, I think it was like 500 or 600 platinum, just like here for your time, because I was grateful, and that's how I showed my time, because they took time and didn't get anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
It made me kind of feel bad. Felt like I was using them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we've kind of reached the highest point of the show. I think our minds have travelled long distances today and threw out some crazy ideas. So I guess we can call it wraps if you want, guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been up for 14 hours. I need to get some sleep.
Oh, so we'll go into the closing statements, everyone. We'll start with the sleepy guy. So go on, Lex. Your closing statement for today.
All I can say is I need the feeling that the world is alive. I need the feeling that things are evolving and changing with me. If I'm growing up, why isn't my pet growing up? If I'm changing, why isn't the town changing? The town should be changing more than me. You know? It's just, that's how you keep worlds alive. Not this, oh, we finished the zone, got a city, let's leave it for the next 10 years. It's like, boring.
Kodiak.
Yeah, I just want to feel that whatever I do matters. Whether if I'm harvesting stuff and turning it into a city to help it grow, or if we choose to do X on my server, that we unlock something special. Same with the guilds. You know, have them, like you said, just have everything we need to do has to have a purpose. Okay, and I want to like I affected the world in one way or another.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You know, I'm all about, you know, for me the most important thing is the world and how it interacts with me. So me having, you know, me being able to actually interact with the city, or you know, with the guild, or with, you know, have shard events happen, you know, server events. How, you know, how I interact with an NPC on, you know, answering him for a quest. That's the most important thing to me, is having the world around me be immersive and alive. So yeah, definitely a cool discussion today. Yeah, so with that, guys, we'll see you all on Tuesday. Hopefully by then the newsletter will be out, and we'll be able to cover that on Tuesday, go through it with you guys. I don't know what Delindsay is going to have planned for Thursday. We'll have to wait and see when he gets back, and join us then next Thursday for another theory crafting show, and Tuesday for the news show. And with that, guys, have a good night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
We'll be right back.